All right, let's get started with the subject matter. Again, tonight is drips and splats. In particular, I'm going to be demonstrating using acrylics and fluid acrylics to do that. However, you can also do drips and splats with watercolors. And you know, I like to bring you a lot of examples of other artists that do a similar kind of work that inspire me. This is an artist, Mama Panda Painter, and that is watercolor. So first she spattered her watercolor paper, and then she went back over top of it and created a cute little, what are those called? Lavender flower, um, all around the spatter. So sometimes you put your spatter on first and let it dry and then do your painting. Other times you put your spatter on after you've started your painting. Most of the time I put my spatter on after I've started my painting. But if you're going to do a watercolor, this is a great way to spatter the background and then create your painting on top, so that way you don't disturb the painting that you created on top with watercolor. Because what happens with watercolor? Well, when you spatter over top of watercolor, it reactivates the color that's underneath it, right? Because watercolor is re-wettable, whereas with acrylics, that is not true. So you can spatter with acrylics and then put paint over top, and that spatter will not reactivate or re-wet. But that is why she put spatter in the background first and then built her painting on top using watercolors. Now here's an artist, Janet Skates, and her Instagram is Janet Skates Art. But if you look closely at this painting, you can see crazy drips in the background here and here. So she created her background first and did all the dripping. And then she came back over top of it and painted the bird over top of all those drips that she had in the background with that one. Now this is the same artist, and I just love the colors of this one. And in addition, you've got drips back here. So she created her background, did some dripping with her acrylic inks or acrylic paints. Again, that's Janet Skates Art. And then built a painting on top of it. That's the beautiful thing about acrylic that I love, is the way you can layer it. You let each layer dry, and then you can paint right on top. And here is Rosito Naco Studio. How fun is that? These are splats of paint, and then she blew them with a straw. You see the little tendrils that come out from it like that. That's from blowing on it. So either blowing on it just with your breath or blowing on it with a straw, you get these little tendrils coming out here. And then once that was dry, and it looks like it's probably either a watered down acrylic or an acrylic ink, then she came back and did artwork on top of those spatters, because spatters are very energetic. Even though the rest of what she put on top of it is very simple, circles and lines, the fact that the spatter in the background has a lot of energy to it really brings those pieces to life, right? And now this is the same artist, Rosito Naco Studio, and these are like after Jackson Pollock, the artist Jackson Pollock. So Jackson Pollock is a famous artist from New York who did spatter painting with oil paints. So he would mix up in old coffee cans some, what are they called? What you would put in an oil paint in order to make it flow. And then he, like mineral spirits or turpentine, and then he would spatter that with a big brush or just use the can on massive canvases and make artwork like it is. So she painted the background of these first in multiple colors, and then came back and did her spattering or her dripping. And it's kind of a combination of drip and spatter. You get really wet paint on your brush, and then you're going woohoo and having a good time like that. So she created these Valentine hearts this past year with using the spatter technique. And that's something that is attributed to the artist Jackson Pollock because he did huge canvases using this technique. He did it with oil paint. Rosito did it with acrylic paint. And there are a couple of books that I have that, well, do I have a couple of books? I have hundreds of art books. Okay. So if I'm doing a subject, I like to go to my art books and see if I can find within my art books what would be good art books to share with you in order to give you a feel for mixed media in general, painting with acrylics, and then spatter or drip in particular. So the first book is Mixed Media Revolution. Who's this by? Let's see. Darlene Olivia McElroy and Sandra Duran Wilson. Wow, that's a mouthful, right? They're great mixed media artists. And in here, I have a tab for a section where they talk about spatter. And they're actually talking about it as a couple hundred, right? Salmon's girl, she says. I haven't counted all my art books, but I have lots. Okay, so this is in the section about loosen up, and then you'll see the first piece of artwork here. You see all the spattering up in here, and it's not just one color of spatter, it's several colors of spatter. And then they built their collage or image transfer on top of that. And I think there are a couple more pages here in this section about loosen up as well that have some more. Yes, well, just more spatter in the background here. And then they put their image over top. I think it's the same thing here too. Yes, a bunch of spatter on it. What I do if I want to spatter, and let's say that I already had this image on here and I didn't want to get spatter on this image, I would, or even hey there, GR Card Designs, welcome in. If I didn't want spatter or drips to get on this image, I would use a little bit of tape, a low tack tape, either a washi tape like these, pretty decorative ones, low tack, and right, love a good splatter. And then you would tape a piece of paper over top of this. So if you would already put this on and you don't want the spatter or the drips or whatever it is that you're putting on to get on this image, just cover it with a piece of paper and some low tack tape, and then do your spattering. Or usually I just cut a piece of paper to the size and the shape that I need, lay it on top, do my spattering, and then lift the paper off. And that way you can still get your effects in the background without affecting your main image if you happen to put the main image down and then decide that you wanted to do your spatter, right? So again, that was the book Mixed Media Revolution. And then the next one is, this is a fun book. Fun book. And it's by Walter Foster, and it's called 101 Mixed Media Techniques. And this actually features multiple artists in here, but I have a couple of tabs for you. So let's go to the drips section. I like this book because it sits open easily. Do you see how it has a ring binder right here? So that it's very easy to work with. If you are on any of the big book platforms, they will often tell you that you can get your book as a download, you can get your book as a hard copy, a soft copy, and then they might say spiral bound. So that's what this means, is it comes with a spiral bound, and then you can put it on your table and lay it out like this open. And I find that makes it easier if I'm working on projects and I have steps or something like that I need to follow. It's easier if the book sits open. And so this section talks about paint drips right there. So they feature that as one of their techniques. And then there's another section here where they're talking about ink drips. And in this case, this is acrylic ink, and it's in the background of the painting. And then they built a bunch of painting on top. Now you see that white writing that's right there? Like I said, my favorite marker for that is this Pebeo acrylic marker. Now, a lot of people like to use the Posca marker. This is the Posca marker here, which is also an acrylic-based marker. But what I found it for myself is that the Posca marker in white is not as dense as the Pebeo acrylic paint marker. So maybe when we get going and I'm working on some surfaces, I can show you the difference in how the paint lays down, because I prefer the Pebeo one for being more white than this one right here, which I thought I was going to love this one, and it's just not as white. So, I find that for artists, a lot of artists, they want that very punchy white when you're working on a dark background. And so it is important to have a good white marker. And there you can see the scribble that they did on there with some sort of white marker. All right, let's put the books aside here and talk about some of the supplies that we're going to use today. Oops, let me put that there. There we go. We're going to need, because we're working with acrylics, we're going to need a palette paper. So you know that I work on this quite often, and it's shiny on one side. It comes usually in a pack of 40 sheets. They're what's called a tear-away palette. That means you tear this away when you're finished with it, and it goes in the garbage. And they last a long time because they have 40 pages on them. And then I'll be using some acrylic brushes. So these are just various acrylic brushes here to put paint down. I really like the brushes for acrylics that are like this. You see this white? It's like a white nylon. I think it's called Taklon is the brand name of that, but very nice. I like the white ones and I like the gold ones like this. Those are my favorite. Now, some of them come, like for instance, Pebeo came out with a new set, and oh, this is not Pebeo. This one is Master's Touch, and it's black. I'm like, why the heck would y'all make your bristles black? They're probably trying to imitate natural hair, and a lot of the natural hair that through the years was used for brushes was black or dark gray. And so they may be producing the brushes like that because if you have folks that learned on natural bristles, they may be used to their paint being on a black brush, but I don't like a black brush myself unless I'm working with lighter paints. So if I'm working with whites or brights, I might want to use a black brush because then it shows up better on the bristles. Most of the time, though, my preference is one of these two colors. And I wanted to let you know that in case you were standing in a store in front of racks and racks of brushes and thinking, what the heck brushes do I get? If you're starting out, I recommend either the whites or the Taklon. And I do have links for products like this. I've done that, right, Salmon's Girl? Well, in the beginning, when I started painting in it, and I've been painting over 20 years now, but in the beginning, I would stand in the store and have racks and racks of brushes and think, what the heck do people need all these brushes for? Well, now I know after years of painting, I know what those, as a matter of fact, these two sets of brushes that I got, because there's a whole bunch of them here. These two sets I just bought. I just bought them about a month ago. So even though I have bins and bins and bins full of brushes, I still buy new brushes. I keep going back to the same ones, right, Salmon's Girl? Yeah, you end up with your favorites. I will tell you my absolute favorite, but it's for watercolor, is the Princeton Velvet Touch. Actually, the Princeton Velvet Touch brushes can be used for acrylic paints as well, but I like the tip of it for watercolor, so I reserve my Princeton Velvet Touch brushes for watercolor. Another brand that I like is believe it or not, I love the Master's Touch, which come from Hobby Lobby. And that was the black one that I just showed you, but they make many different types of brushes with different colors up here, and they're very nice. They last well. And then probably my all-time favorite, Princeton is my favorite brush manufacturer for everyday use. And so this turquoise handle, now they adjusted the color of turquoise a little bit recently, I noticed. Let me see. Yes, like this. So one is a little bluer and one is a little lighter. These are the what's called the Select Artist brushes from uh, from Princeton. And so if you do look, hey, hello, Gabriel Lee Arts. If you do look on my website under the supplies links and then go down to brushes, or you read my blog articles, oftentimes I will have linked in there these Princeton artist brushes if you're working with acrylics. All right, if you're working with the watercolors, then I've got linked in my articles these Princeton Velvet Touch, which work beautifully for watercolors as well. And sometimes I use other brands of brushes as well, and I will link those in either my articles or they're under supply links because I enjoy working also with Christy Rice's brushes, and she designed her brushes primarily for watercolor, but they're the type of bristle that will also work for acrylics. Some people are like, oh, you should never use your watercolor brushes for acrylics. My opinion is if you do the right thing and clean your brushes right away after you work with them, and you use a good soap like the General soap, which is a specific brush soap, then you're fine. If you care for your brushes properly, you can go back and forth between watercolor and acrylic. Woo. I know some people, that's very controversial, but that's the way I feel, and that's actually what I do. All right. I had mentioned earlier the paints. We'll be working with this is called Golden High Flow paints. This is an acrylic paint, but it's a fluid version of acrylic paint. We'll be working with the Mopper from Posca. So this was the Posca marker that I said the white wasn't as punchy as I like. But these here, which is the fluid paint, it's the fluid paint like in here, but you'll see when I show you how they work that a lot more of the paint comes out, so you get a lot denser effect. Then I also like to work with paints like this. These I would call semi-fluid. They're not as fluid as these golden high flows, but they are a fluid paint. And so they can be watered down just a little bit with either water, like spraying water on them, or you can add something. Let me see, this is what I like to add if I need to thin out my acrylics, and it is an airbrush medium. So not just Golden makes airbrush medium, other companies make airbrush mediums as well. You want an acrylic airbrush medium, and that is there is a link you can follow on my website under supply links for airbrush mediums. And I like these because it's very thin and watery. It's what you add to acrylic paints in order to make the paints thin enough to go through an airbrush. And so that gives you can take any other kind of acrylic paint and add the airbrush medium, and you'll end up with a paint similar to these. The only difference is, of course, you'll be watering down the density of the paint because you'll be adding a clear medium to it, right? And then here is acrylic inks. This one happens to come from Michaels, but there are many types of acrylic inks. I have other ones too from Daler Rowney, which are called the F&W inks. I've shown you before the Bombay inks, and I also have here the Liquitex inks, but they're all acrylic inks. Now, when you're standing in the store, again, and you see inks in bottles like this, you want to look on the bottle for, is it an acrylic ink or is it a watercolor ink? Because both come in a similar bottle. And a watercolor ink, of course, is re-wettable after you put the color down, and the colors are going to be more pale. They're not going to be as opaque as an ink that is an acrylic base. So this happens to be the acrylic ink from Artist Loft Level 2. These are beautiful. These are beautiful. So I'll show you how they work, and they're reasonably priced. All right, to purchase those. I don't have the Artist Loft inks on my website, but I do have the Liquitex, the F&W inks, and I also have the High Flow from Golden. All of those links are under the supply links on my website. Then paper. Y'all know that I love, 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 love the Canson XL watercolor paper. That's my workhorse. It has, it's 140 pound, which means it's a nice heavy paper. Now, another type of paper that I use a lot, because the Canson XL watercolor has a bit of a texture to the surface. If you want a smooth paper on the surface, what we call a vellum surface, meaning it's smooth, then my favorite studio paper is the Fabriano Studio watercolor. Down here it says Studio watercolor. And it's also 140 pounds, which means it's a thicker, heavier paper, and it'll take all kinds of mixed media that I like to throw at it, including acrylic inks. They're made for wet media, those two types of paper. So that's what we're going to be using. And I've shown you this before, but whenever I have leftover paint, so if I'm doing a painting session and let's say that some of this paint is left on my palette, that palette pad, then I will pick it up and I will put it onto pieces of paper like this and handmade paper like this. So this is all leftover paint. And then those become the background for me to work on top of to create other pieces of artwork. For instance, what I created for this show here, this piece, which is going to be added to a greeting card, this piece, the background was made from leftover paint. And that way I have lots of these little pieces like this that are sitting around just waiting for me to do the next process on them. Now, it's not just the small pieces like that that I use to make my cards. I also have large pieces like this, and that was leftover copper and brown paint. Isn't that pretty? So it makes a nice background for you to work on top of. Here's another one here. And actually this piece that I made for the show, here, the background here that's kind of a dark blue, that background was made with leftover paint, just like this, like that. So that's what I those of you who have watched me know that I have a no paint left behind policy. And so that is what I do with leftover paint. And then that just becomes the next piece, right, that we're going to work on. And I have piles of them, even ones that are super colorful like that. Oy! So we'll see where that one takes me, right? And then in this show, we're also going to use the washi tape. So I had mentioned it earlier. It's a low tack tape. And I'm going to show you how you can tape off this paper and then create multiple minis. So for this show, I normally work on the 9x12 size. So you see here, this is a size 9 inches by 12 inches. And the reason is because it fits on my table in the camera. But if I am working on larger pieces or I want to tape it off with the washi tape and I want to tape off larger pieces of artwork instead of smaller ones, I will use an 11 by 14 piece of paper instead of the 9 by 12. The thing is, it doesn't fit well on camera, the 11 by 14. So I'm going to stick to the 9 by 12. Now, also, besides purchasing something like this mopper that already has the ink in it and the big old soppy top like this, there you go, like that. Oh, so juicy, so juicy. I just love this. There is something called a dipstick that you can buy. This happens to be by the company called Molotov. These are not yet on my supply links, but I'll make sure that I add it to the article that's going up on my blog tomorrow, as well as I'll make sure to link to it in the description of the video. And there are a couple of sizes for this. So this is a large mopper top, or dipstick top. And this is the Molotov, Molotov. That's their logo, like that. But this is cool because you buy it, you put the top on it. Here, let's go ahead and do it. So you shove this top on it. Ooh. And then you unscrew the back. And now I can pour whatever liquid paint in there I want and create my own mopper like this with any color that I want. So you can customize your colors that way, and those are awesome. Now, that one has a big mopper top, and then you can also buy one. Again, this is a Molotow dipstick, so you can open the back and put your paint in, and this one has a smaller mopper top on it, like that. And then Molotow also, they produce beautiful fluid paint as well, similar to what Golden does here. So you can buy large containers of the Molotow paint, which I have done before. Like my favorite is the Molotow white. I buy the large container of the Molotow white. But if I wanted to put it into a marker of some sort, like there's a chisel marker. If I wanted to put the Molotow paint, or I wanted to put this golden high flow paint into a marker, Molotow, there you go. Molotow sells the empty markers with, can you hear that? It has the little marble, the metal marble in there, so that you can easily mix up the paint. Let me do this. So it looks like in order to use this, you have to pull this little device out at the top here, then fill it, then put that back in, and then screw your top back on. The nice thing about markers like this is you can buy replacement tips. So this tip right here pulls right out, you see that? And then you can buy replacement tips, so that allows you to have this marker container for a long time. They last a long time. I love the empties. Now this one is probably my favorite, and it's the brush tip. So you can customize whatever color of fluid paint you want to put in a brush tip like that. And you just get the empty Molotow marker, and you can do that. Now what's nice here too is you can see a clear side right here, so you know exactly how much paint is left in there, so kind of how long you have left. Are y'all hearing that thunder? Holy kashmali. Check this out. Again, Molotow. That is a huge, huge foam. As a foam, it's kind of like a, what would you call that? Felt. Massive felt tip there. And so you would shake this up and then get it started, and that would give you a large, you could cover a large area very quickly, but it has a handle so you can use it like a marker. Right. So that is, let me think if there's anything else that, well, of course, acrylic paint, other types of, I still do, yeah, other types of acrylic paints. So this is the new Origin acrylic paint I was showing you before. It'll be out sometime in August or September here in the United States, but I got my hands on some ahead of time. So you can take this, well, we're going to create a background with some acrylic paint, and then we're going to do some spattering and dripping on top of that. And I love using the Pebeo Studio acrylic paints, especially the Dyna. This is called a Dyna. So this is one that has shimmer to it. I love the shimmer and the sparkle. And I'll be throwing some paint with these big fat markers as well. All right, let me see if there's anything else I need to show you. Oh, something very important that I like to have on hand is a spray bottle with water, because as I'm doing my dripping, sometimes I want to encourage the drip. And so having a water bottle to spray that with helps to encourage that drippiness. So I always have that on hand. All right, let me see. Anything else? Anything else? Nope. We are good to go over top of the table, except that I have paint everywhere. All right, so we're going to go up over top of the table. Here we go. So if you get car sick, you may want to close your eyes for just a second while I go up over top of the table. Oh, you know what? Before we go over the table, I wanted to show you this piece right here. Let me move out. So that's a piece that I've done, and you can see lots and lots. Ooh, let me bring my hand over here. You see the drips here? So this is a large piece of mixed media artwork. I've got my postage stamps in there like I like to do, but there's lots and lots and lots of dripping going on, especially can you see down here at the end. So I started with the drips up at the top and then used water and let it drip all the way down. So this is one of my large canvases. It's not listed for sale anywhere because I love it, so I keep it for me. And there's another one on the ground here that I started, but can you see how I started the background with lots of drips? And the drips go down, and then I like the way the drips show toward the bottom of the piece, like that. And so that is ready for me to work on. It's a piece that's in process that was on my easel, and I thought, oh, I'll bring that in and show you, because sometimes I just start the whole background with drips, let those dry in between, do some more drips, and once I'm happy with the background, then I start building my mixed media piece right on top. Okay, then let's get started with the paper. Remember, this is my palette paper here. And then I'm going to take this piece of paper. I'm just going to have to move some of this paint. I just have handfuls of paint here. Handfuls of paint. These are all different kinds of tubes. While I'm getting this ready, let me just put this here. If you're not familiar with my Instagram or my Facebook, my website, I was mentioning my website earlier, so there is the information on the website. And feel free to take a picture of that if you're not familiar with it. And that way you can, let's go down to the end of that. You can go find my other, let's see. Oh, hold on a second. There we go. Okay. So let me do that. If you need me to put that back, just let me know, because I have it right next to me here. But here is the 9x12 paper. And what I'm going to do is we're going to work on several pieces at one time. So instead of just making one large piece, I'm going to show you how I use the washi tape. So washi tape is a decorative low-tack tape. A lot of artists actually, especially for art journaling, they will actually use it in their journals because they're pretty. You'll notice that they come in different widths. And I do have a link on my website to washi tapes. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to put this in the middle here. I'm just going to eyeball it for right now. I like a piece to have a nice border. So you do your painting on the inside, and then it has a nice border on the outside. So we're going to make a border. Okay, like that. So that will help create a really beautiful border for us around the piece. And then I'm going to go up here. Oops, let's see if I can get it right there. Oops, I need to be sure it's along. You know what? I'm going to flip this around because it's easier for me to work from here. There we go. So now I'm going to do it like this. This will give me a beautiful border. Most of the time, your paint will not seep underneath it, but sometimes it does, just because this is a low-tack tape, and if you're using a lot of wetness, sometimes it can get underneath there. Just a little warning. There we are. And then we'll do it on this end as well. Woohoo! There we go, like that. And that creates that'll create a beautiful white edge for the artwork that's being made. And yeah, now I could put one down the middle as well and make 4. And that would be if I was making artwork for the front of a card like this, I might do it as 4. Normally when I do it like this is where I'm making artwork that I'm going to put into an 8x10 mat like that. So the 8x10 mat, it would fit on there. All right, let me make sure you can see that. Yes, you can see that. Okay. So we're all washi taped up. And now I'm just going to start by putting some light meaning thin coats of paint on here. And so I'm going to use this palette paper. So you can see I have the palette paper right underneath here. And that lets me put paint on here and then pick it up with a palette knife and apply it to my surface here. So in order to do this, I'm going to use some of these paints in the tubes. Let me do a little bit of purple. Now, another nice thing about doing a single sheet like this and working on more than one piece at the same time is that you create a series of paintings this way. And plus it's efficient, it's quick, right? And sometimes I will work on an 18 by 24 piece, a big, large piece. And that helps me to orange here. Let's put that out. And then I have a beautiful, let's see, I want a light blue. So it's okay to use tube paints and these fluid paints at the same time. It's fine to do that. So there's another light. So these hold a little peak, and this paint is runny, but still it is acrylic paint. All right, let me grab this. This is a palette knife. Isn't this fun? This is from Italy. I got it at a show. A manufacturer gave it to me. So I'm just putting some of the purple on the back there, and we're just going to get started putting some of the color in the background. Now I could use a brush for that, for this. What I find is when I use a palette knife, I can get the color to be a little thinner. Usually with a brush, I've got it a little bit thicker. So let's put some purple over here too. Now it is not going on as thick as I would like, so I am going to switch to a brush. It's going on a little bit thin. All right, so let's use a brush and get more of that on there. I also like the brush when I want to get the edges a certain shape. So if I wanted to do this like that, there we go. That goes on a little bit thicker. Julio. All right. One of my little dog that's whining right now has been just, lately, she's not been a happy camper. She's old. My girls are 16 years old, so it depends on the day whether they're having a good day or not, right? Just like us. Okay. So that is going to be some purple in there. Remember, I'm creating a background. Now I'm looking at this purple and thinking, this purple's a little bit dark. So for what the sort of pastel-y look that I'm going for. So I can take a white. So this is just an inexpensive white acrylic. And I can add this in with that purple just a little bit. It's pouring here at the house. Oh, Salmon's girl, it's raining there too, huh? Woo! So we just pray that our our internet stays up, right? Okay. So what I'm looking for is a little bit more of a heather or a lavender color instead of that really deep. Now that's a little too much white. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this. This color is called ultramarine violet. Okay, let's put a little more in there. So I want something a little more pale, a little more summery, what's called a high key color, bright colors. Okay. Again, lots of white. And I'll add just a little bit more. I prefer to put less color in and build it up to the color that I want than to put too much color in and then have to put tons of white in with it. Okay, there we go. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to take that and put it in the area where I had the dark purple because I want something light. All right, there we go. Mo better, kind of heather-like. And then down here, covering over that dark. And the nice thing about acrylics is you can just layer them infinitely, so don't worry. Once a layer is dry of this paint, it's not going to re-wet like a watercolor would. Okay, cool. So we got that light in there. Now, sometimes I go back with a brush if I want, sometimes I want brush marks and sometimes I want a surface to be smooth. So if I want it to be smooth, I use a palette knife like this, and that gives me a smoother surface. If I want brush marks, so here I'll show you. If I want brush marks, then I go in with a brush and I make little marks going in different directions. And that gives me a nice, just brushed textured surface. There you go. All right, so we have a little bit of that light purple there and light purple there. Woohoo! Oops, look what I did. I made a mess there. Oh well. Wouldn't be the first time. That means it's all over the bottom of this, right? Yeah, all over the bottom of that. I'm not worried. It's just acrylic paint as long as it's not all over my clothes. All right. Now let's dip into some of this blue. We're going to take some of the blue here. Now, unfortunately, the blue got in with the orange. And if you know anything about color mixing that I talk about all the time, blue and orange are opposite each other on the color wheel. So what happens when you put blue and orange together? You get kind of a muddy color here. So can you see that kind of muddy color? So I'm not going to fret. I'm just going to scrape what I can off with my palette knife. I love making mistakes or having what I call happy accidents. No, who coined that? Bob Ross, right? Happy accidents. And yes, Mud, Salmon's Girl said, it's an abstract. And I'm going to clean the brush a little bit. So what do? I get as much paint off the brush as I can. Then I dip it in water. Then I get more paint off of it. Like that. Okay. Now I'm going to put a little bit more of that blue out like this, so it's not getting in with the purple. There we go. And now we'll go on top of here. Nice. That's the beauty of acrylic, y'all. You can just layer it. It's so fabulous. Okay, cool. So we're getting this beautiful summery turquoise, right? Let me just do this a little bit bigger here. Nice. Now I'm not going to go pink on here because I'm going to be using the mopper, which has the color I bought for y'all was pink. I just bought that. It's the first time I'm using the mopper. I just bought it this week so that I could try it out with you. And I'm already in love with it. Oh my gosh, it's so fantastic. All right, let's put this off and this one. So you see how even though they're not exactly the same, these two paintings are going to speak to one another because they're going to have the same colors and the same techniques used on them. So they'll be part of a set. When you're creating artwork that, let's say you're going to show it, like I just submitted 3 pieces of artwork to a show. We'll see. We'll find out on Thursday. If I won any prizes, who knows? But I submitted 3 pieces to a show called Summer Sensations. And so they all follow the same theme because I feel like when you're submitting to a show, that whatever the theme of that show is, it's helpful to keep your artwork cohesive, meaning pieces that are similar to one another or speak to one another. Maybe they're the same colors, or usually I do it as the same technique that is used in the pieces. Okay, there we go. So far, there's a little bit of orange over here, so I'm just going to It's dried a little bit, so I am just going to cover that right over. Yes, the beauty of layering. Okay, cool. Now, something that I'm noticing, and I want to bring it up to the camera so you can notice it as well. When the paint goes on, it has a very pastel look, and as it dries, it gets darker. So you need to be careful of that with acrylics. And that's why I swatch acrylics. I've done swatch videos for y'all before. I swatch my acrylics because I want to see what does the dry color look like. And often your paint tubes will have some sort of swatch on it to tell you what the final dried color is so that you know, because the color that it is when it's wet versus the color that it is when it's dry are not the same. And why is that? Why is it that the paint that's wet looks lighter than the paint that's dry, even though it's the same exact paint? And the reason for that is that the acrylic medium that the pigments are in is white until it dries, and once it dries, it's clear. So for instance, this airbrush medium, if you look in the bottom of the bottle, you'll see that the medium is white. So polymer mediums, that's a polymer medium is an acrylic medium, they are white until they dry, and then they dry clear. And that's why your colors appear a little bit lighter until they dry, and then they get darker. Okay, let's switch to the orange. So instead of using this brush that I used for the blue, I'm going to switch to another brush for the orange so I don't muck it up, right? There's another brush I can use for the orange. And let's go back, since I messed up my orange here, I'm going to get the orange again. Come on now. Where are ya? There it is. Okay. So here is the orange again. Oh, just beautiful. All right. I'm just doing a little bit of what's called color blocking here for you, just to get an exciting background. Oh, this orange is just, oh, so yummy. So yummy. Now this orange color is actually transparent, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Transparent versus opaque. The other two colors, so this lilac and this turquoise, are both opaque colors. That means they have some white in them, and the white causes them to be opaque. This orange is actually a transparent orange, so as I paint it over the top of the edge of the other colors, you're actually seeing the other colors through it, and I'll show you that in just a second here. Okay, right here. So if you look at the edge right here, what you're going to see is you're going to see that blue edge, raw edge underneath here, because this orange is transparent. If I want the orange to be, let's say, more of a coral color, what do? I just add some white, like this. Now, notice I'm not using my brush to mix the color. I like to use a palette knife. It's more efficient to use the palette knife to mix the color. And then I'm going to get something that's more like a coral. Now, if I really want to punch it up and get a corally color, if you've watched me before when I'm doing acrylic stuff, I love to use fluorescent colors in with my mixing. So I'm just going to put a dollop of the pink fluorescent in there. That's this Pebeo Studio Acrylics, and let's see what it does to the mix. I call myself a mad color mixer because I'm constantly doing this, just playing around with color and seeing what I get. Oh, there we go. Now the coral is just more what I would call punchy, more of a punchy coral color. Yes, so very nice, very nice. Now, I don't like to waste the paint that's on the palette knife, so I just pick that up with my brush. And because my brush has the transparent orange on it, I'm getting it mixed in there. All right, let's see what's gonna happen here. Nice. Nice. I like that even better. Wow. I like that color next to these even better than my transparent orange. You see how the transparent orange looks next to them? And then look at this, because this has white in it and that has white in it. So it really speaks better to the painting when this one has white in it. And I appreciate y'all hanging out with me, both on YouTube over here. I see some folks on YouTube, as well as the folks that are spending their Sunday evening with me on Whatnot. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, I much prefer this more pale orange. Wow. The nice thing about the pale orange is because it has white in it, it's covering up that blue a little bit better, where here the blue really shows. So you know what I'm going to do with this orange, right? You know what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to cover it up. I'm going to cover it up with this pale because I really like the pale. I'm in love with the pale. You know what? There was a bug in there. Oh well. Sorry, bug. Buggly wuggly. It flew into my paint, my wet paint, and got captured in there. So the interesting thing is, remember I mentioned Jackson Pollock earlier, the artist from New York, and he would use the oil paint and thin it down with his turpentine and then throw it onto large canvases. Well, often you would find bugs, like there's on the end of my paintbrush right now. Often you would find bugs and you would find ashes from his cigarettes in his artwork, because he would work on huge pieces on the floor in his barn. I think his place was on Long Island, his big studio. And he'd be just over top of the painting with a cigarette in his mouth. So there'd be ashes in his paintings, and there'd be bugs that got captured in his paintings because he was working in his barn, just like what just happened to me here with a little bug in there. And that's something that when you're standing in front of a Jackson Pollock painting at a museum, it's something to look for. Look closely at where the painting is to see if there are any bugs or if you find any ashes in it. It's just gives you like a where's Waldo, right? Hey there, Curly Travels. Welcome in over on Whatnot. Yes, it's a great story, right? Had you heard that before, Curly Travels? Or was that a new story to you? He had kind of a troubled personality, as many famous artists do, but but I know that about his story. There are some good documentaries on him. I hadn't heard of his having that. Yes, yes. Oh, full cigarette butts as well. Oh my gosh. CR, what is it? CR Carter Designs. I did not know that he would just throw his butts in with his work. Oh my gosh. That's an irreverent artist for you right there. It's like, I don't care. It just puts it right in there. Oh my gosh, I'm in love with this coral color. This is not the first time that I've made this coral color. You know, I've made it many times, and the trick is using this stunning fluorescent pink. So um, I happen to have the Pebeo Studio acrylic fluorescent pink, but if you have any fluorescent pink or fluorescent yellow, I'm shocked. I don't have fluorescent yellow on the table, do I? No, that's not fluorescent yellow. The interesting thing about the fluorescent colors is, let's see, one of my fave artists, CR Card Design, says started as a portraiture artist. I did not know that. Why did I not know that about Jackson Pollock? I've watched his biopic or whatever it's called, his story in movie form, but I did not know that. Um, One of the interesting things about fluorescence, or any color that you're going to color mix with other colors in acrylics, is to look at, there's a little square, and the square has white inside it. That means this is a transparent color. And I got the idea to try color mixing with with fluorescence because I noticed that they were transparent, and it helps when you're color mixing if at least one of your colors is transparent. And I said, oh, fluorescent, transparent. Let me try color mixing with this. Holy cow, opened up a whole new world. And that's how I get punchy colors like this absolutely stunning coral color right here. So you can put it together with beautiful yellows, or in this case, I put it together with this cadmium orange, and it just created this stunning coral color. So there's a trick for you when it comes to acrylic paint mixing. All right, let me cover up this little bit of blue that is there. Okay, so there we go. That's just a little bit of color blocking. Normally, if I were taking my time, I'd do a couple more colors that go together with this, but that were not pink, because I'm going to be using the pink mopper on there. And let me go ahead and clean my brush out here. Let's catch up. Love the coral, right? Right, Salmon's girl. Ah, so glad you covered up that little piece. Curly travels, you cracked me up. Ah, my OCD was like, cover it. I know. Me too. It only takes a second, right? Only takes a second, just cover it. Okay, so let's get this clean and set off to the side. This one with the blue in it. Let me get that. You notice the nice thing about these Taclon brushes, these nylon brushes, is you see how I'm grabbing it and then making it go back and forth in my paper towel to get all the paint out. Well, they can take a beating. That's why I love them. Love them. Okay, let's grab another paper towel, because I always have to have a paper towel in my hand while I'm painting. And a whole bunch of them in my apron. I have a whole bunch of paper towels shoved down in my apron. Oh, you know what? There's one more color here that I adore. Let me think. This is called Titan Green Pale. Some people call it Celadon in terms of the color. I happen to find this tube on sale somewhere because they're not making it anymore. But I'm going to share with y'all here on the show what it looks like. It is a beautiful, just gorgeous pale green color. Oh my gosh, it is just so lovely. What I like, there you go, right there. What I like about the Golden Paints tubes is there's an actual swatch of the paint right here. Now, these tubes are frightfully expensive, and so I'm going to let you know that when these come out, the Origin acrylics, when they come out this fall, this little swatch is an actual swatch of the paint. So remember how I said it's helpful to have an actual swatch of the paint to see what the dried color looks like? Your good quality paints are going to have an actual paint swatch there like this, so that you can see what the dry color is and also what the thickness of it is. And I find that very helpful. Okay, so I'm going to take this light green and I'm going to put some, oh, okay. Before I put the light green on, what's going to happen is if I put it over top of this blue, which is what I was planning on doing, let's see how it goes. There's a lot of white in with this Celadon. And let's just do that. Why not? Okay. The interesting thing, I've shown before how to read the label on a fine art paint. And somewhere on the label, it's going to tell you what the pigment colors are. So this says pigment, and then there's a listing of a whole bunch of pigments here. And PW6 is the first pigment. And PW6, the W, P stands for pigment, W stands for white. So PW6 is titanium white. So you know that this has good full coverage. It's an opaque paint because it has PW6 in it. Okay, let's take some here. And that's why it was able here to cover over that turquoise without the turquoise showing through. If it was a transparent color, the turquoise would show through. All right, let's see, where am I going to put this one? I'm going to put this one over here, like this. I guess we're going to have to do a couple of these, right? Was that CR Card Designs or was that the Curly Traveler? Curly Travels is the one with OCD, right? Kind of like me. Um, it was so funny when I was getting ready for the show today. I got totally distracted by something, and then I thought to myself, squirrel, right? Because I had gotten distracted. Oh, because I always have 50 million things going on in my mind at once. After having had three children at home and all of their friends for 20 years. Wow. Okay, so put it there, put it there. And then, of course, I have to put some over top of the purple here. So let's do this. This will, because it has a lot of white in it, it'll go really well with the pink once I start dripping and splatting and doing all that. Okay, whew. There we go. There it is over top of the purple. What should we do over here? Put it over top of the purple or put it, I think we should put it over top of the coral over here, right? Right. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. Just put it over top of the coral like this. That'll work. Okay. There we are. And fill this in. It's nice to have the tape here. I can see the tape and I know where my edges are, you know? That helps a lot. Don't use clear tape or white tape because then you won't be able to see your edges, you know? Yeah, very easily. There we go. What do you think? What do you think? Okay, good. So we got some green. We've got 4 colors in there. Nice. All right. So now, again, I'm going to clean my brush. Oh, I just love that Celadon color. Love, love, love it. I was watching an artist that I follow today on YouTube, and she was talking about how to make your own Celadon color. How, because they're not selling this titanate green pale anymore, she was saying, how do you make your own? So if you want me to show you how to make, yes, nice. Okay, cool. Thanks, Salmon's Girl. So if you want me to show you how to create a Celadon, I will show you. You just tell me you want me to do that, and I'll be happy to do it for you. Because there's just, because I grew up in Asia, I would go to, in Taipei, Taiwan, where I lived for 7 years, we would go all the time to the what's called the Palace Museum, Royal Palace Museum. And Celadon is actually a type of uh, porcelain that has a stunning, luminescent, very light green color to it. And the nice thing about Celadon porcelain is they were able to get it super thin, so it's very translucent when they put a light behind it. Oh my gosh, it's stunning. And so I've always loved, since I was a kid, that color, Celadon, that luminescent, light green, barely there. Um, oh, those pieces are just stunning. And so I'm in love with the Celadon color, and I love uh, working with it. All right, let me put the white aside here. And, oops, sorry about that. I am going to, what am I going to do with this? Hold on a second, because I don't want to waste this whole half, right? So earlier I had a piece here that I was working on, and there's a half here that wasn't used. So I'm going to cut this off like this. Ah, you know what? Usually what I do in my studio, of course, is I grab, okay, in my supply links on my website. Hey there, Sheep Hog. Welcome in, welcome in. I have a listing for this Jack Richardson watercolor paper that I love so much. And so I like working with the 4x6 postcard size in order to put it, that's exactly what this is. It's watercolor paper, 4x6, and that's what I build a lot of my cards on. So if I have leftover paint like this, then you can buy this in packs of 50 very reasonably. This is actually, I think, my third pack of 50 here. And I think you can buy it in a pack of 200 as well. But they're 135 pound, 4x6, 50 sheets. So I'm going to use this. See how it looks like a postcard on the back? But I'm going to use it to pick up this leftover paint because I don't like to waste paint. This is exactly what I do in my studio here. So let's pick up this and just put it on here. All right. I like to use the palette knife because it gives me a thin coat generally, and by having a thin coat, it'll pretty much dry faster. Well, it looks like we have enough orange to possibly cover a whole one of these, so I'll have to put the other colors on another one, right? Yep, looks like this one's going to be a monotone. That's why I always have lots of those aside. Now, there is another kind of paper that I like to use for leftover paint as well. So look at that. I covered the whole thing. Wow, that's awesome. Let's see, let's do that. So I will set that aside. Oh, here, this is another way you can buy them. This is a watercolor pack. And see, these are same sort of thing, 4x6 watercolor. But the other kind that I like to use is this one right here. So this is a paper that has what's called a decal edge. So a decal edge, look at that. All the edges are raw. You see how they're all raw? These are individually handmade pieces of paper to get those raw edges. And so I buy that in a pack. How many were in the pack? 4x6. I think there were 100 sheets in the pack, something like that. And then that's how I make pieces like this. So do you see the raw edge all around here? And the background was the leftover paint I told you about. So let's just clear the palette knife like that. Let's pick up some of the purple here. Why not? Okay. And then we'll pick up some of this orange and blue. Let's see what happens. I'm being careful not to mix the orange and blue too much so they don't get muddy. Just swiping, swiping, swiping. What is it? Swipe or no swiping? Anybody that has kids or nieces and nephews out there, you might know that one. Swipe or no swiping. That was from my kid when my kids were young. Okay, any more wet paint over here I can pick up? A little bit more purple. Let's bring some more purple in here. So this is what I do. This is exactly what I do with my leftover paint. Is I come in and I put it on these backgrounds. Okay, cool. So there's the beginning of a background right there. Ta-da! Yes, Salmon's Girl. You know swipe or no swiping, right? Who is that? The little Latin girl, right? What is her? Oh, my kids are my oldest is in her 30s now, and my youngest is like 25. Yes, Dora the Explorer. Thank you, Salmon's Girl. Swipe or no swiping. I love using palette knives because they're so easy to clean. But if you'll notice, a little bit got left on there of the orange. So all you do is grab another palette knife and you just scrape. Now what I'm doing is I hold this palette knife to the surface, and then I pull this other palette knife out like this. And then it comes right off. Like that. Super easy to keep them clean. And then here on the back, like that. There you go. Clean. Woohoo! All right. Now, I want to show you these markers and how I'm going to use the markers with this. So let's bring this back. My headset is like, you are done. Okay, so what I was starting to do over here is I want to cover this up so I can flip it around. So I'm going to take this used sheet from before. I'm going to cover up the wetness, and I'm going to flip this around so I can use the other side right there. So you can see it, right? There we go. Yes, it's in frame. Awesome. Okay, so now my niece dressed up as her 2 years ago for Halloween. Ah, as Dora the Explorer. Yeah, that's a great costume for Halloween. Okay, So markers, acrylic markers. Oh my gosh, I adore a good acrylic paint marker. And don't get me wrong, the Posca markers and the paint that's in the Posca markers is excellent. It's just the white is not as good, in my opinion, as the white coming out of these acrylic paint markers. So why don't I show you right now? Is that rain we hear? Ah, you know what you're hearing? You're hearing my air conditioner. There we go. It's off now because what happened is my my headphones finished, like they got done. All right, so I'm gonna plug my headphones in and I'll use them later for the sale. All right, so let me show you these two markers on this surface so you can see the difference. So it should be more GR Card Designs, it should be more clear now. You should be able to hear me better. There's only a fan going in the distance now. Okay, so there's the Posca marker. These are pump markers. That's why I was pumping it like this. And you can hear it. You can hear the little ball inside there. And then you have to pump the tip up and down in order to get the paint to flow. Okay, so this one has flowy paint. Let me go ahead and draw a line here so you can see what it looks like. And what I'm seeing, and I will show you up close in a little bit, is that it's slightly transparent. Okay, so I just did that. And oh, if I did it there, I better do it over here, right? Don't come for me, GR Card Designs. Come on now. You know I'm going to pick it up eventually. Okay. So what you're going to notice is that that line is a little bit, yeah, I see those sunglasses. That line is a little bit transparent. And that's what I was saying about this Posca white is it tends to be a little bit, it's not as dense as the Pebeo one. If I wanted it to be more dense white, I would have to go over it 2 or 3 times with the Posca white. So here is the Pebeo white, like it is. Let's see if this one's going to work. Ugh. I always have lots of whites going at the same time. As a matter of fact, here, this one, you can get the replacement tips for this. I can see this replacement tip is dried out, so I need a new one. But I have this one that you can see is all drippy and luscious and gorgeous. Ah, okay. And I already did this one up earlier. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is you can use this 15 millimeter size going this way, or if you turn it on its side, it's 5 millimeters going that way. So I'm going to use the 5 millimeter size. And I'm going to put this on here so that you can see the difference, hopefully. It's slightly different. I'm not, it's still a little bit transparent as well. And a side-by-side. This is the first time I've done a side-by-side with these. Oh, now it just dripped right there, which is fabulous. One of the things I love about the Pebeo jumbo markers is if you pump it a couple of times, the paint flows a lot. And so all you have to do then is flick it and you will get incredible spatter. Spatter. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Super easy with these big ones. That's why I'm giving away this big yellow one right here. And with part of the show, I have a white one to give away, which is the smaller size. Now the white one is this size, and then the yellow one is this big size. But if you juice up the tip like that, you can spatter. So let me bring the spatter up here like this. And I find it's a much cleaner spatter than trying to spatter from a brush. Because y'all probably have heard of or know how to spatter using either a toothbrush where you dip it in the paint and then you do this. And that gives you like a, let's say, the edge of a wave spatter, right? Because you want a smaller spatter with something like that. So there's that way, or you can get a brush full of paint and then do this, and that's another way to spatter. But I like the big chunky spatters, and so I find that the marker gives me a better spatter like that. Oh, look at that. Yes, beautiful, beauteous. Let me show you the marker. Let me see, which one am I giving away here? This exact one is what I have fresh to give away. Remember, you have to shake it and then you have to pump it to get the paint to flow. Let's go ahead and do the giveaway for this one. Oh, Gibby! While I'm showing you these. Yes. Okay, so we're running the giveaway right now for this white Pebeo acrylic paint Maca, brand new. And if you're on YouTube, I see there are some folks over on YouTube, and if you would like to join the giveaway, then scan the QR code on the screen or go to the description of the video and click on the link, and you will come right over to the show. If you're new to Whatnot and you join, Whatnot will give you 15 bucks to spend, which is fabulous. Okay, so I just pumped that. What I like about this big one is, let's say I want to do dots. Dots. This 4mm, so you'll see on the lid, there's the number 4 there. So the 4mm bullet tip like this is excellent for making dots. So let's say I want to do some dots here. You can make dots look like spatter, but they're a little more controlled and there's a little less paint. So this is actually excellent for doing dots. Let me show you the dots from the Maca. Right there. Yes. So I love using these to do the dots with. And this 4mm marker, if I pump it and hold it down a little bit, there's enough in there for me to spatter with that as well. You're just going to get a little bit smaller spatter from this than you would from the big marker, like this. Okay. Now, why don't we shake it up a little bit and do some red? Let's do some red. What time is it? Okay, good. So here we got the red one. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh, it is so juicy. These are so juicy. Oh. So what am I doing? I'm pumping it to get a bunch of paint in there. And then I'm going to spatter. Y'all, this makes me so happy. I can tell you. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Life is good. Now, there's a little bit of paint left on here. Do not be afraid of picking that paint up because it's acrylic paint. That's the beautiful thing about these. It's just fluid paint. Remember I mentioned that Golden has this fluid acrylic like this? So I'm going to show you how to do that next. But that fluid paint is the same kind of thing that's in these markers right here. So it's a beautiful paint. And when I travel, okay, here's a travel hint. When you travel, take these markers with you. It's much not as messy as if you're trying to do tube paint. And then you can bring yourself a piece of this palette paper or use a little, what is that? A little plate, right? Like a little paper plate or plastic plate. And then you can literally just, let me use a small brush for this. Come here, you. There we go. You can, I'm going to make sure my brush is wet. I can pick up this paint and just paint with it with a brush. So let's make some marks here. And what am I doing? I'm just making marks with acrylic paint. Acrylic paint! So just think of it as acrylic paint. It just, you have the benefit of having it in a marker as well as having it be able to be used on a brush. Okay, so let's just make some marks like that. Now, of course, since I made marks over there, I have to come over here and make some similar marks since we're making a pair. Okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. I love the red against the this turquoise. Now it's not as thick. It's not as thick when you pick it up with a brush as it is when you spatter with it. So you can see a difference there.
between the color of the spatters and the color of that. Now let's say that I want these spatters to run, to drip, like the ones that, the red ones that are fresh, right? Well, remember what I told you, you're going to take your spray bottle and you're going to put it on an angle. I usually try to do it over top of a piece of either wax paper or this palette paper. And what I'm going to do is just spray. So sometimes you want to spray back here. Sometimes you want to spray up close. You want to get that paint to run. Oh yeah. Run for me, baby. Come on. Yes. Okay. So let's get that to run. Oh, this is, oh, let's see. Salmon's Girl. Salmon's Girl. You won the white one. It's coming to you. Woo, woo. Congratulations. Okay, okay, okay. So now let me show you this. Just clean these up so I can put this back down. Nice. Oh yeah. You see those drips? So luscious. Love, 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 love the drips. And most of the time I will start the drips up here at the top. So let's say that I want some drips that start from the top. Let's use the golden high flow acrylics. And these golden high flow acrylics, I have a big tub of them over here. They come and there are some nice sets that they come in like this. Again, if you go to my website, deetsart.com, and you go into the supply links, there's a section for the golden high flow there. And so you see this one, what is that? Fluorescent pink. And then some other nice colors here. And they have these little squeeze tops. And this one happens to come with what? A marker that you can fill up, which is nice. That was a limited edition set that I picked up at one of the stores. But here I'm going to shake this one really well. And what's nice about the high flow is you'll see when I squeeze it out, it's going to drip right from here. So I'm going to drip it right from the top because these sort of started here for the drip and I want some drips from the top. So let's do this and I'll just drop some of it here and drop some of it over here. Oh, nice. Okay, now I need my water. Water. Come on, water. Now, it depends on what you're doing. You may or may not want to use the water. The water helps to diffuse it as well as helps, it kind of mixes with the other colors, and sometimes you don't want that. But, oh yeah, okay. Now you're talking. Nice. Now, sometimes I will turn it this way with the opposite direction to get some of the drip to go that way as well. So I've got drips in both directions. Sometimes. All right, let's try that. Lovely. Lovely. We have some fun going on there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you this mopper. Oh my gosh, I love the mopper. Oh, by the way, I think I mentioned before, but these high flow paints, they're beautifully fluid. They will go into these Molotov drip sticks. So I'm going to show you right now the Posca mopper, which acts like a drip stick. But this is the Molotov. Woo, let's see. Where can I? My sister-in-law is bringing me tea. Thank you, Louise. Thank you. Thank you. And so you can literally take this paint and put it directly into this what they call a drip stick, and then use it similar to what I'm going to show you with the mopper. Now, this is what they call, again, the high flow acrylic. So it's very wet. If you have the fluid acrylic by Golden or any other fluid acrylic like this, right? Because Golden makes a fluid acrylic that's not as thin as this is, the high flow, and it comes in a packaging like this. You can add to this, remember what I said, the airbrush medium. So you can add airbrush medium to your fluid acrylics or even to your tube acrylics, and you can create your own high flow. paint that you can put into these drip sticks. Okay, so you can create your own if you already have acrylics at home and you just get yourself some airbrush medium. Okay, you can make your own. All right. Ooh, you know what I didn't do yet? I didn't show you the acrylic ink. Does Floetrol work or not? You know what, GR Card Designs? Floetrol is a little bit, in my opinion, for this application, it's a little bit too thick. The Floetrol is too thick. Now you could add water to the Floetrol for sure. So if you have Floetrol, you can try putting some water in with it and then putting your color in with it, like, you know, your colors like this, and then see. Now, if you don't have something like this, which is the professional version, the Molotow drip stick, what you can do is get bingo daubers. So some people have what's called a bingo dauber, and a bingo dauber has a similar top to it like this. And so what's nice about a bingo dauber and about these drip sticks is that you can squeeze them. That's the trick. You need to be able to squeeze it. So you can use gravity by holding it upside down like this, so the paint is flowing this direction toward the end. And then you can squeeze it to force the paint to come out. And you can do that with a bingo dauber as well as with one of these drip sticks. So if you want to try it with the Floetrol GR Card Designs, then I would say get yourself just some inexpensive. I think you get 4 or 6 for $10 of the daubers, the bingo daubers, and then you can try it, because these professional grade are like expensive. The nice thing about the professional grade is you can buy the additional tips in order to replace the tips so that it lasts you longer. You can change colors, all that kind of stuff. That's the advantage to using these professional type from Molotow, which, like I said, these are not yet on my website under supply links, but they will be linked in the article, and they will also, for this show, which will be up tomorrow, on the blog, and they will also be linked. I'll add a link in my supply links on my website. Okay. Oh, look at that. My sister-in-law brought me some tea. She's such an angel. Lovely. Okay. So I was mentioning about the acrylic inks. What's nice about acrylic inks is that they generally come, I have both mediums, but I never tried Floetrol. Nice. What's nice is they come with these droppers. So you want the acrylic inks that have the droppers, because one of the things that I did in one of the pieces that I made here that I was showing you earlier, hold on a moment. Oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go? There it is. No, it was the big one. Okay. So I came in here after I was doing the drippy drippies and having fun with that. I then came in with this dropper and I placed little dots in here, which can look like, you were dripping with it, but you're able to place them exactly where you want them. So it's very helpful to have a fluid acrylic ink with a dropper. And this was the one from Michael's, but I have, Liquitex. There are a whole bunch of different ones that are linked in my website. So now I have some paint in the dropper here, and I can either just, let's do a little bit of dripping like this, and then I will go ahead and spray it with a little water. So it's just acrylic in ink form, okay? And I will just spray that with a little bit of water. Let her drip. There we go. So now I've got some pink going there. Some pink drips. Nice. So that was pink in the acrylic ink. And I love going back into a piece like later after this is all dry, and then just making little dots like this. So it can look random, but in fact, what's nice is I can place them exactly where I want them. So that's the acrylic ink. Now, it's quite a fluid paint, and I could try putting it in my drip stick, but if it's not fluid enough to flow out the way I want, like it will with this mopper, then I would just add a little bit of airbrush medium in with it. The nice thing is this should have, well, this one doesn't have a marble in it. Just these pens do. You can always drop a marble in there and then shake it, and that'll help mix it if you need to add some airbrush medium to it. All right, let's use the mopper. Ta 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 ta. All right, so here's the mopper. These just came out, in the last year or so, and they are so fun to use. MOP, do you see there? MOP-R, mopper, like that. There is a marble in there. I always shake these first. And what's cool is, now I usually will use my palette paper just to make sure the paint is flowing out of this dauber top here. There we go. Okay. Because you can squeeze this a little bit to get the paint to flow. Yep, flowing nicely. Now, if I want the splats like this, right here on this card, do you see how the edges have like a splat to them? What I do is I just take it and I whack it down onto my surface. So when I whack it, it gives me a splat edge to it. Now there's not quite enough paint in here. I'm going to have to squeeze it a little bit more to get it to flow more. There we go. So now I'm going to get more splat. There we go. So do you see the splat there with the edges? Yeah. You can see it. Now see those little bubbles that are in there that happens. Then you can use a toothpick or a needle tool, and I go in and you don't have to do that, but it's just, people like CR, or the traveler and we like to pop those bubbles. Another thing that you can do is you can just take the edge of a paper towel and go in there and pop the bubbles that way too, if you want. You don't have to. Okay, so that gave me like an amazing splat around the edges. I love that. That's just using it like that. Let me see. These were a little anemic, so let me try them again to get more splat going on. Come on. Splat, splat, splat. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on and I'm going to squeeze and then let it drip. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to put it on, squeeze it, and let it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you see that? Wow. Look at that drip. Yes. It's very thick. Very thick. Let's do it here. Yes. Nice. Come on. Drip for me. I mean, these are incredible. They drip so beautifully. Ooh, right? I know. They're not cheap, but they are fabulous. Oh my gosh. If you want to treat yourself to something super fun, get yourself the set of these. They are amazing. And go to my website, and the link is in my supply links for these paints. Oh yes, it's dripping all over. But I love the consistency of this paint coming out of here. It's very much like um, the golden high flow, very much like that. And they drip so well that you don't even need to spray it with water. I find it just, it's designed to drip. They are designed to drip like that. Oh my gosh, look at how lovely that is. Now I've got it all over my arm. Oh my gosh. Here, we'll just clean up the edges right here. Because remember, the edges are what? They're on the washi tape, right? So don't fret. I'm not messing up the bottom there on the painting. I'm just getting it off of the washi tape. There we go. Oh, remember again, you can flip it the other way like this to get some of it to, flow back that way. I don't know if you can see, there are a whole bunch of little bubbles right there. So I might break up the bubbles with my paper towel or not. There are a couple over here. The bubbles annoy me. But it's not necessary to pop the bubbles. There we go. There's a bubble there. There we are. So I'm loving the direction this is going in. And which white paint marker did you say you prefer? Ah, it is the Pebeo acrylic marker. So let me make sure you can see that. Okay. Pebeo acrylic marker. And I have one in yellow to give away in just a few minutes. Woohoo! And you can see these big fat ones. You buy these individually, the big fat ones. But look at this, this turquoise. They call it Caribbean blue. There's black. There's the red. There's yellow. There's cyan blue, which is a darker blue. And then the individual markers like this come in. Let me show you. I have this cool 1980s canister, and you see I have a whole bunch of the markers, the smaller markers in there, because they come in, I think it's 60 colors or something, and 5 different nib sizes on these markers. But for splatting, my favorite is the this big one right here. Okay, let's see how it's going there. Oh, I like where the colors are going. So this I will have to set aside to dry. Once it dries, then I will come back in and I'll work over top of it. I'll use other markers. I'll use more acrylic paint to make more marks like these little marks here. I will maybe use my favorite white, which I don't know where I put it, but it's one of these Uniball pens. I love the Uniball pens for going back in and creating little marks. And as a matter of fact, this silver Uniball is what I did here. Can you see the little swirls that are in each one of those splats? Yeah, that was the silver Uniball pen I just showed you. And those are linked in my supply links on my website. And but this part of it will have to dry, and then I'll decide what I want to do with it for the next steps. But I wanted to bring you something that was kind of summery. Uniball is good, right? GR card designs. I found a link to a set. So it's the silver, the gold, and the white. And I've got that linked on my website. And so this is unless there are any other questions or you want me to show you anything, this is the end of the workshop.